Welcome to A Gallen of Questions. My name is Pat Gallen, and to my left is the newly minted Pro Football Hall of Famer. He's got himself a jacket now. Merrill Reese is with me here on the show. Merrill, thanks for doing this.
Actually, I have a plaque.
A plaque. We can get you a jacket made.
The players, I have plenty of jackets, Pat. The players get the jackets, I got a plaque.
The plaque is still pretty cool, so congratulations on that. But before we get into all that, I want to talk to you about this year's team and what you think lies ahead for them. But talk about your background, because to become a Hall of Famer, you don't just do it overnight, right? Like, something's got to click in your career. You've got to do it long enough to be well thought of around the league. But take us even further back than that, your upbringing. How big a role did sports play for you as a kid growing up?
I loved it. I loved it. All sports. I mean, I was, during baseball season, I was, dreaming about striking out the sides, and football season, I was throwing the touchdown pass that won the game, or basketball season, making the one-on-one. You grow up, but I loved sports. I've heard people say they sat back and they watched television and they turned down the sound and they did the play-by-play. I never did any of that. I wanted to play ball. That's all. I wanted to play ball. Although I did have a mother who was a teacher, and who was also had that kind of flair for performing. And at the earliest age, she had me doing television commercials. So I did a lot of television commercials in the Philadelphia area that were live at the time.
How old were you?
Between 8 and 12.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay.
But they were live, and I would do Sylvan Seal Milk with a guy named Chuck Wagon Pete, and I did a show called M&M's Candy Carnival, where I would look through a knothole and then turn to the camera and say, "Hey kids, it's time for M&M's Candy Carnival." And that would be it.
That's it.
And then they take me home and I could go play.
What did you get paid for that?
I did get paid for that.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was some kind of a scale that I got paid, like $57. Or,
That's not too bad.
Yeah, that was put into a college fund.
Absolutely, helped pay for college. That's pretty cool. So from there, you go to Overbrook Temple.
I went to Overbrook High School.
Did you know, like, when was it that it kind of triggered in you, like, hey, this is kind of cool, maybe I will do this later?
I always say, my dream was to be the Eagles quarterback.
Yeah.
But this was the next best thing.
Yeah,
I mean, by the time I was 10 or 12, I realized that wasn't going to happen. I mean, I was a good athlete. I was a very good tennis player at one point. But I got realistic about it. And plus, I grew up listening to games on the radio from the time I was a little boy.
Sure.
I remember as a real little kid, I could sit in our living room with a great big console radio and listen to Penn football.
Okay.
And listen to Eagles football on Sunday.
Yeah.
And I loved it. I loved envisioning what they were saying.
Sure.
So I did love that. And actually in my high school yearbook, and they always say, what do you want to be future?
Yeah.
Mine says to be a play-by-play sportscaster.
So the dream came true.
So that was true. And then when my dad took me out to Franklin Field to watch the Eagles, I'd watch the game, and when the Eagles were in the huddle, I would look up at the broadcast booth and see Bill Campbell.
Yeah, the great Bill Campbell. Did it for a long time. You went to the Navy was that right after Temple?
Right after Temple.
How long were you there for?
I was a naval officer. I did my tour of duty. I spent time at the Pentagon and the Office of Information, and then I spent some time at Sinclair Fleet, which was Commander-in-Chief of the Atlantic Fleet, which was at Norfolk.
Okay.
And then I did some stuff at the Academy. So it was a wonderful, wonderful experience.
So then
by the time I was out, I was lieutenant senior grade.
How about that? That was very cool. I didn't know that until I started, obviously, I've known you for a long time, but I started to dig a little bit deeper, and I just realized that. It's very, very cool. Okay, so if you go from there and then jump into radio, and then something happens and the Eagles job pops up?
I didn't. You made that awfully.
Well, that's a quick transition for television, right?
Well, okay, I'll do it a little. For the first year, I couldn't find anything.
Okay.
I mean, I couldn't. I would knock on doors. I auditioned at a station in Coatesville, and they said, you can't start here, you have to go someplace small. This was in Coatesville. Coatesville. And then I ended up in Pottstown. And then I did a high school football game on a Saturday afternoon, Pottsgrove Springford, and then they hired me Monday full time. And I did everything. I mean, I did I did the disc jockey
Sure,
show.
sure.
It was a daytime station. I did a fire engine parade. They used to play organ music, and I used to read obituaries
Wow.
for Highland Garden of Memories. I did so many things. You do it all. And then I did the Little League games at night.
Yeah, of course. But that's
So I
what
did that. Then I went to
prepares you.
Levittown.
Okay.
And then I'll tell you a story. I auditioned for a news job at KYW Radio.
Is that right?
When I was in Levittown. I had been in Levittown for about 2 years.
Okay.
Thinking that I would never get any place.
Sure.
And I said, I heard they were looking for newscasters. So I auditioned at KYW, and they gave me wire copy, and I rewrote it, and they came in and they taped me, and I didn't miss a word. I didn't stumble over anything. And I go in afterwards, the news director, I'll never forget his name, and his name was Reginald Layton.
Okay.
And he called me in and he said, I'm going to do you a favor. And I thought, wow, I'm going to have a job at a big city station. And he said, I'm going to tell you, you will never work in a major market. He said, because you have a different sound that we're not looking for.
Wow.
And he said, either find something off the air or go find another profession. And I was crushed. I was crushed. And I went home and I just sat there, and my mom said, what's wrong? And I told her, I said, I'm just disgusted. She said, well, it's my fault because I raised a weakling. If you're going to let what one person said throw you off track like that, well, I was angry. By the next day I went back, and within 6 months, I had landed at WWDB in Philadelphia, and within 6 months, I think he was fired.
So now you've been with the Eagles. What year is this about to be with the Philadelphia
only
Eagles?
48.
Only 48.
Only 48.
My math was a little off. I thought it was 47, but it's 48 years
48.
You're about to embark on with the Eagles. Does it ever get old?
Never. Never. I love it as much as I ever did.
Yep.
On game day, I am as nervous as you can possibly be. I mean, I've spent the whole week memorizing numbers, coming to practice, putting together a book of things that I can turn to during a game, storylines, and I probably put in 60 hours a week easily getting ready for a game. And I love every single second of it. I really do.
There is a quote out there that has been attributed to you. Is this real? It is, quote, they'll have to remove me with a crane because this is what I love doing more than anything else in the world. Did you actually say that?
I actually said that.
Is that true?
Well, I hope they don't use a crane.
But if they had to, that's how much you're invested and how much you love
know, when
it.
people say, how long do you want to do this? My answer is forever. Because you know how much I love to play golf.
Yeah, I do.
I love to play golf. But this is my favorite thing in the world. I mentioned this in my Hall of Fame speech, and this is true. When we stand every week for the national anthem, whether it's here or at another stadium, I actually say to myself, there's no place in the world I would rather be, and there's nothing in the world I would rather be doing.
Unbelievable.
That's how I feel about it. When I am nervous, and then the second Joe McPeak, our producer, cues me, it all goes away, and I feel as if I'm in a zone for the next 3.5 hours.
You're in the flow.
Love it. Absolutely love it.
When you got that call that you were headed to the Pro Football Hall of Fame, what was that moment like for you and your family?
Well, you know, Pat, you have certain goals, and you have certain things that you dream about happening someday.
Sure.
And in 2016, Jeffrey Lurie called me, and told me that they were going to induct me in the Eagles Hall of Fame. And I was thrilled, absolutely thrilled. But I had hoped that one year I would be inducted into the Eagles Hall of Fame after doing the games for 100-something years. I thought maybe there's a chance.
Sure.
But with the Pro Football Hall of Fame, there hardly are any local radio broadcasters.
Yeah, that's very
They're
true.
all the network broadcasters. They're the executives and the top producers.
Sure.
And it was never a thought. It was never a thought. It was never a possibility. It was never part of a bucket list. Never. And I was driving out to the golf course, and I saw on my screen Canton, Ohio. And all I thought was, I don't know anybody in Canton,
It's a spam
Ohio.
call. Someone trying to sell me something?
And I answered the phone, And the gentleman said, "Is this Merrill Reese?" I said, "Yes." And he said, "My name is Jim Porter. I'm president of the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Are you driving?" I said, "I am." He said, "You might want to pull over to the side." And I pulled over to the side, and it was unbelievable because he told me, he said, "You are the winner of the 2024 Pete Rozelle Award, and you'll be enshrined in the Pro Football Hall of Fame." And when I heard that, I cried. I felt like a complete idiot. I mean, I mean, he's telling me I'm in the Pro Football Hall of Fame, and I'm sobbing. I can't get words. I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe when he said that. And so he told me the one thing that they're going to announce it tomorrow at 11 o'clock. He said, "Don't say anything to anybody except your wife."
Okay.
I said, and he said, "Because we don't want it to get out on social media."
Sure.
And so I said, "Okay." And then I called Cindy, and she answered the phone, and I said, I'm tearful.
Still,
I'm
yeah.
still sobbing. And she said, "Are you in a car accident? Are you okay?" I said, "Hall of Fame." I couldn't believe it. And you know what? When I think back, it was an amazing, amazing weekend. And the opportunity to stand there in front of 4,000 people and share my love of this game.
Sure.
And my career was amazing, and my kids were there, and my grandchildren, 5 and 2, were
That's
there,
great.
and so many of my friends came to Canton. It was amazing.
So well deserved. Such an honor to get to sit next to you and work with you all these years.
Listen, it's fun to work with you every Sunday.
I really appreciate that. Let's talk about this year's team, this iteration of the Eagles. Cut down day just passing. I know you're doing a lot of work, as you said. You're doing 60 hours a week trying to, figure out the names and numbers. Just off the bat, after the way last year ended, how do you feel like the vibes are with this team? Do you think it's changed for the better?
Yes. Yeah, I think they're better. I mean, a 10-1 start wasn't bad last year,
Right.
but even during that 10-1 start, there were some warning signs that they were scraping back here, scraping and sneaking by there. I think this team is better.
Yeah.
I think what Howie Roseman has done in putting together this roster, he took the greatest weakness, I think, personnel-wise, which was the secondary, and then he drafts Quinyon Mitchell and Cooper DeJean, two of the best defensive backs in the country. And then he brought in Vic Fangio, who is one of the most knowledgeable and bright defensive coordinators in the NFL.
Yeah.
And then he brought in Kellen Moore, who is one of the brightest and most creative young offensive coordinators. And I think that's a big deal.
Yeah.
I think Jalen Hurts is going to have a spectacular year. I really do.
Well, the ingredients are there for that to happen. You've got A.J. Brown, obviously, Devontae Smith,
And
Saquon, and Jahan Dotson is such an incredible
I'm
move.
a big Penn State fan.
Of course you are.
I watch the Nittany Lions every week. And I'll tell you what, I really loved Jahan Dotson when he was playing there.
Sure.
And I'm not trying to make any comparisons because Deshaun Jackson was one of the great receivers in Eagles history. But what I noticed about Jahan Dotson, even when he was there, the thing that one of the things that made Deshaun Jackson so great was his ability to go downfield and track a football, know when to slow up, know when to speed up.
Sure.
And those are some of the qualities I've noticed in Jahan Dotson. He's a great tracker of the football.
He's going to be a great addition to this already loaded offense. The hope, though, is obviously without Jason Kelce along the line, that Cam Jurgens can take over that role and do so seamlessly. Do you think that it's clearly not an easy job to take over for such a great player like Jason Kelce? How difficult of a job do you believe that is?
It's a difficult job when you're taking over for a future Hall of Famer. But remember this, Cam Jurgens was a center at Nebraska. And one of the people who looked at tape and examined that, and before they made that pick, gave his sanction, was Jason Kelce.
Yep.
And then even in the first summer, Jason went back for some minor surgery, and Cam Jurgens played the preseason games, and we looked at him then. and didn't see a deficiency.
Sure.
So you're not replacing him with an inexperienced player. As a matter of fact, not only will he fit in fine at center, but he played at guard last year.
Yep.
So he was a starter last year. So I don't think that's a problem. Now, I think the one question mark you're probably going to have right now is right guard.
Yep.
Because Juergens moves to center.
Big guy.
Tyler
Mekhi
Steen
Becton,
has not been healthy, and they bring in Mekhi Becton, who in the NFL has never played anything but tackle.
Yeah, that's a good point.
So there's an adjustment to be made. But if Jeff Stoutland says he's okay, you're talking about the best offensive line coach in football.
No doubt.
The best I've ever been around.
Sure.
He's great. So he's got the right teacher. And if it's Jeff Stoutland's view that will work, it will work.
Outside of Jalen Hurts, which player excites you most on this roster? Who do you think is primed maybe for a huge year?
Well, I have to say Saquon Barkley.
Okay.
Because he was such a great player and he was such a top draft pick by the Giants. And he did well with the Giants running behind a deficient
lackluster,
offensive line.
we'll say.
Lackluster's kind. And now he's running behind a good offensive line. And he's going to be working with Jalen Hurts. And the thing about Saquon Barkley is you don't have to replace him. And you notice, as of today, they only have three running backs
on the roster,
with Gainwell and Will Shipley. So when they have that, you're talking about Saquon Barkley, who can run, who can block, and who can catch.
Yep.
So there's no need to take him out on third down.
What I do on this show every week is it's a gallon of questions. So I've got this can here, and there are some random questions in the can.
Okay.
We'll pull them out and see what we come up with?
Sure.
We'll see what answers we come up with. Merrill Reese, gallon of questions. Question number 1. How many times have you been asked to record someone's voicemail or answering machine message in your life? How many times do you think?
Over 1,000.
1,000?
I don't have a number for
Sure,
it,
but if you thought...
I get them. Well, for one thing, I do a thing for charities where I put somebody in an Eagles play. So, example, I would say, out to the Jalen Hurts lines them up. Eagles moving against the Dallas Cowboys. Hurts in the shotgun. To the near side goes A.J. Brown. To the far side, Devontae Smith. In the slot comes that great athlete, Pat Gallen. Back goes Hurts. He's looking deep. He's got Gallen at the 15, the 10, the 5. Pat Gallen's gone, but he'll call you back just as soon as he returns. So that usually goes for the charities.
I might actually just have to take that for my own phone now that you do that. That's amazing. All right, you were part of a Philly Special Christmas album. What's your favorite Christmas song?
Good question.
It's not Christmas season yet.
I think my favorite Christmas song would still be White Christmas.
Okay.
Bing
Crosby, yeah.
I'm dreaming of a white Christmas.
Yeah, heck yeah. All right. If you were not Eagles play-by-play voice, what do you think you would have done with your life?
That's a good question. That's a very, very good question because that's all I mean, I think I would have probably been a play-by-play broadcaster.
Some way.
In some other city. And I think I probably would, but not necessarily football.
Right.
Because if I could have picked, I would have picked football and I would have picked the Eagles.
Yeah.
But certainly, I would have taken a job as a baseball broadcaster,
Sure, yeah.
any of those.
Absolutely.
You don't and in this business, you also don't pick your location.
Right.
So I think it still would have been
in this realm somehow.
In that field.
Sure.
Although I think I might have liked to have been a coach too.
I could see that. The booming voice. Get in line, everyone.
I've done that. I mean, Nick, before I went to the Hall of Fame, had me break the team down from the center of the field. And Doug Peterson used to have me come in the first night when they got all 90 players in the auditorium, and he'd have me give them a little bit of a motivational speech.
I like that.
So maybe that would have been it.
Yeah, maybe. Outside of the Super Bowl, what's your favorite Eagles game of all time?
December 19th, 2010, Miracle number 2. Back goes Mitch Dodge. The punt is away. It's muffed by Deshaun Jackson. He picks it up. Jason Avant throws a block downfield, and the Red Sea parted.
Yep.
And Deshaun danced around at the 1 yard
Yeah, that's a
line,
good
and I
one.
said, "Get into the end." But that
Stop
was it.
dancing around.
And the Eagles won that game. That was amazing.
It's a great choice.
They were so bad in the first half. I think at halftime I said, "The score is the Giants 23. The Eagles are still at the hotel."
All right. In your best Merrill Reese voice, can you say these words or phrases for us? Here's your first one. Onomatopoeia.
Onomatopoeia.
Beautifully done. Vestibule.
Vestibule.
Just rolls off the tongue. Hullabaloo.
Hullabaloo.
Effervescent.
Effervescence.
Supercalifragilistic.
I could do supercalifragilisticexpialidocious. If you say it fast enough, it really sounds atrocious.
That's it. He got it.
Thank you, Julie Andrews.
That's the one. All right. I think we got two more in here. Who is the biggest personality you've ever been around with the Eagles? Biggest personality with the Eagles?
Well, sitting here today, I will tell you it was probably Jason Kelsey.
Sure.
Because he might be the biggest personality in the world right now between his podcast and everything else. But biggest personality around the Eagles, oh gosh, there have been so many people and so many great players and so many great coaches. And
Kelsey's a good one.
Oh, he would be it.
He would be it. What's your golf handicap?
14.7.
14.7. That's a good number. Merrill, thanks for sitting down with us. We really appreciate it. And congratulations again
Thank you,
on the Pro
Pat.
Football Hall of Fame. Thank you.